Alrighty, so we are live. We're gonna give this an opportunity to start to notify our people, and we're gonna get the conversation going. Here we go. Hey,
Hey,
how are you?
good. Okay, I gotta fix my volume.
Let's see. All right, let me turn that up. Can you hear me?
I can hear you good.
All right, cool. I can hear you too.
I've been
Okay.
fooling with my lighting because it's dark and
Oh, I know it's like nighttime at your house already, huh?
yeah. So I was like, I didn't feel like pulling out the ring light and doing all of that because I wanted to be comfortable.
Yeah, no, for
So
sure. For sure.
it's nice to talk to you.
I know. I'm like, look at all of this support and now we get to do it. Like I love this so much. So, let's see. I'm gonna send a share just to a couple of more people that may have wanted to join. I don't know if they're gonna pop on or not. I'll just give them like a moment, and then if not, then we can just jump into our conversation.
We'll do the same. I will do the same. It's been a minute since I've gone live, so I don't even know what
Girl,
the new features might be.
me either. I'm trying to
So,
think if I even know how to if I even know how to do this. I've gone live like a few times, and girl,
people
IDK.
are joining, so I will say hello to the people that are joining.
Yes, hello
Um,
to everyone that is joining. Welcome, welcome.
I'm gonna share to a couple of folks.
Okay. All right, cool. So I went ahead and put those shares. So, hey guys, welcome in for those of you that are hopping into the live. My name is Addie, if you have not seen my face before, and we are going to just be diving into some casual conversation on the topic of grief. And tonight we are diving in with the subject of this shit really happened. And I felt like what a good way to kind of like segue and like kick off maybe like a live series, because there's a lot to be said and a lot to talk about. But I think a really big one is that whole idea of just like the post I made yesterday, the ruminating thought of this really happened. This,
Mhm.
it really happened.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like driving in my car or just seemingly having a normal day. And then it literally will stop me in my tracks and I'll be like, my husband died. This thought, like it's literal like that. It's like he's
Oh yeah.
he's not here. Like I can't tell him um what I did today. It's so weird.
Surreal, right? It's like really weird. It is a really good way to describe it. It's just, it's weird.
Yeah.
um,
Um, for those of you, because I think the way this works, like people are joining your live and people are joining mine, and so I just want to open it up. Anyone that's joining in on my live, if you are somebody that is going through grief, could be recent, like me. My husband passed away less than 5 months ago, or a little over 5 months actually. Last Sunday was 5 months. I know Addie's been in it a little bit longer, but regardless of when you entered this space, like I think, found each other because we realized that people aren't really talking about grief and what it is and what it isn't. And there's just so many assumptions of what it's like to lose someone. And so I think we just kind of connected and want to create this space for people to ask questions, share their own stories, because honestly, that's how we become more informed. And that's how we can help support each other or if we find ourselves being in that situation, that's how we know that we're not crazy. Because I've spent the better part of the last 5 months feeling like I was a complete crazy woman and that everyone else around me was normal. So,
I think that that's a really big one, is the idea of coming into a space where you see that, wow, wait a minute, that person is going through the same thing. And granted, our circumstances that surrounded our marriages or our lives are different. Hi, if you want to come up, I'll try to add
yeah.
you. Um, but even though the circumstances surrounding what may have happened or surrounding the relationships that you were in is different, I think what we find in this process of grieving is that how we're feeling and the different dynamics of what happens to us on a cognitive level, on a physical level, end up being very, very similar, if not the same. And you do think that you're crazy when it's happening. It's like, hold on, like, am I losing it? Like, how many nights I would be like, I think I'm losing my mind. I think I'm losing it. To know that no, you're not losing it. You are just grieving, and almost anything that you're dealing with, someone else has too, and you're it's normal, and you're normal, and it's okay.
Yeah, yeah. I've become really aware of, I'm not really fond of the word triggers because I feel like that has like a negative kind of tone to it, but it's kind of the best way to describe, like, there's just things that take me there, that just send me. Um, and I was just like, for a long time, I'm like, why can I not, like, for example, I have a picture of my husband on my, thanks for sharing the live or liking the live, Andrea. I see you. I have my picture, my husband, and actually, here's my phone. I don't know if you can see it. My husband and my picture on my lock screen.
Oh yeah.
And there were times where I would open up my phone and forget, and then I would see his face
Yep.
and it would just throw me. Whatever I was thinking in that moment, it would just throw me. There's other times where I would see his face and it was just like, it was just, oh, he's there, And so I just kept telling myself, like, is this normal? Like, why can the same image create such
Right.
different emotion?
Exactly.
Listening to music, I'm very, moved by music. So I hear songs, and I know we bonded the other day over Ed Sheeran.
We sure did.
We bonded big time, and that was like an unexpected. I'm literally sitting at a red light, and this song comes on, and I've heard that song a million times. Um, but I think that was the first time I heard that song, and I listened to the lyrics like word by word, and
Yeah.
I was just like, I had to pull over. It was not pretty.
And it's like it's that deep, like it cuts that deep, and it's like, wow, wow. So, um, I thought that that was really interesting, that little moment online, because that was our wedding song. Portia, I'm trying to add you as like a co-host, and it keeps telling me that you are not on the live or in the live. So I'm not sure what's going on, but I'll
And
keep
if
trying.
there's somebody that would like to join, I see Andrea, you were on here. I know you were on live for like 5 hours today. I don't know how long you were on live, but I was on her live earlier today, and she had shared she'd had a recent loss, and um, so you're welcome to join us. But if you need a break, I get that too. I'm just happy you came.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure how we get it in here, but if anybody does want to come up, it kept telling me that if I try to invite somebody else up, that it's going to disconnect me from you. So I don't want to do that. Um, but
I
I
want,
don't. I'm
yeah.
not really sure. But whatever, we'll figure that all out
And
here.
if they want, if they're not following me, maybe they can try to follow me, and I can try from my end. I don't know if it mattered if I invited you or you invited me.
Oh, okay. Maybe. I'm not sure either, but anywho, a story, short story anyway, on that uh song was our wedding song. So not the song I walked down the aisle to, but we had a compilation of I think three different songs that we did our first dance to. And so that was one of them. And for me, you know, what you teach fitness, and so music is so very important to me and what I do as a central movement instructor, right? Like musicality and feeling your music is really important when it comes to dance. And I would be in my garage practicing and practicing because I swore up and down we were going to do the dance from the video, okay? And I would practice my little tish off in the garage, thinking that that was how it was going to go down. And so the song, it's just like it's ours, right? And so I remember feeling like I don't know what I'm going to feel like when I hear that song for the first time after everything had happened. And the first time I heard it, I was at the lake and it was just very faint off in the distance. A family had their radio on and it happened to be on. And it was like, I just fell apart. It's like it hits you like, what?
Do
Let's see.
you, I mean, because I feel like, is that like song just off the books now? You know, like, do you seek that song out or is it just,
So I don't particularly seek it out, right? Like I actually haven't like on my own gone to play it since he passed, but there have been multiple situations where it has come on just in happenstance and I'm like, "Oh, hi. You're
hi?
here."
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's like the beautiful side of this.
The way it's
Is
happened.
that there's just things that happen and they're not on accident, and it kind of gets you out of that crazy. I think for me it's like when I get those little moments of, oh, this is him. Like my husband was a huge Dallas Cowboys fan, win or
Okay.
lose. Like he loves the Dallas Cowboys and he was obnoxious about them. And so it's funny. I'll be places where I shouldn't be seeing anything Dallas Cowboys, and I will be in the grocery store and a person will walk by me. And I live in Atlanta. We don't really like the cow. I mean, Atlanta people don't like the Cowboys,
Sure,
but
right. It's not.
but I'll just be in the grocery store and someone will walk by and they're wearing a Dallas Cowboys, shirt. And
Yeah.
it's just moments like that that I feel like, okay, he's with me. Like he's just making sure that, because I think, and this is something I would just love to talk about, is like especially losing your spouse.
Mhm.
And there's this sense of safety and protection that I just, it's like I feel so exposed to the world.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And um it's like we've lived in the same place for a long time. I know my neighborhood, I know my neighbors. um but there's something that you really lose that I feel like some people don't understand when you lose a spouse, and that is that feeling of safety and protection.
Yes.
And I would love just to hear from you, like, what do you do in those moments? Like when you feel, maybe, like, I don't know, I was having some issues with my car. And then it was like my brain started, because, Andre, my husband, that's who I would call. Like,
Exactly.
my car is making a weird noise. Can you please handle this? And he would handle it. And now it's like, oh gosh. And my brain goes to, I'm going to get stuck on the interstate with a flat tire in the middle of the summer. And it's going to be 12 o'clock at night. Like my brain goes to the worst case
Then
scenario
the next
because,
thought, and then the next thought, and then it's, and now you're mad, and now you're mad at them for leaving you because now you're still, oh yeah.
yeah, I'm
Um,
like, I don't want to deal with a Ford dealership. I'm not built for that.
Right. And then it's like I don't want to take it places. Like I don't want to get ripped off because I'm a woman. Like these are the things. And you know what? Like in those times for me, God just comes through. Because honestly, it's like I personally don't really have very many people else to call. He was the person that fixed all the things. The first time I had an issue with my car, after he passed away, just like you said, I was really frustrated because it's like, what am I supposed to do? I don't even know where to take it. Like, I don't even want to have to do this research. Like, this shouldn't even be it. And it starts spiraling into this shouldn't even have to be this way. Um, and I feel like, when we talk about pulling purpose out of this pain, we are in a place of self discovery and growth. And it is in those type of moments that we get to learn just how much of a big girl we really are. And just how strong we can really be. And I know that's such cliche. Like, I hate that whole, like, you're so strong. No, I'm not. I'm in it and I have to be. Like, I'm not strong. But you really do find out that, like, okay, hold on. I can do things. I can figure this out. Um,
The big girl panties are like all the way up here.
Big girl panties get pulled all the way up. And you know what? I took my car. I got my little tire fixed. I don't know if I was overcharged for it or not. It's like I don't think I was, but I felt, I was blessed to be able to do it. I could afford to go and do it. The tire was fixed, and I knew at that point that I was safe. And I kind of really just feel like, they'll lead the way for us. You'll find the right place and the right thing. But it sucks in the moment. It sucks in the moment because now it continues to bring up this idea that this shouldn't be like this in the first place. I don't know what to do. I don't know anything about the car. Okay, I put gas in the car and I want to drive the car. Everything else, not my arena.
Yeah, it's and I've just learned I'm gonna have to feel my way through it. I think for me, I'm somebody that kind of has always had the answers, like I like to have the answers, and there's just so much about this that I don't have the answers and that I'm having to learn. And that was something I read really early on, because I mean, almost as soon as, not as soon as Andre passed, but like I immediately was like, I need to learn about grief because this is a space that I don't know. I don't know any. I've lost family before, grandparents and aunts and uncles, but like nothing like losing my husband of 21 years. So for me, I was just like, I've got to learn about this. I have a 17-year-old son that is also grieving, and I've got to figure this out. That's my personality. But I read something very early on, and it may have been an Instagram account I was following, but she was just talking about how we are as widows or as anyone that has lost a spouse, like we are learning so many things at a rapid pace.
Yeah.
I am learning how to shut off the water at the corner of my house. I am learning what to do if I've got a nail in my tire. I'm learning, even just some of the ins and outs of like where he kept things, like just every day feels like you are drinking from a fire hose. And her message was to the person grieving, like, be kind to yourself because you are learning and you have to put yourself in that space of learning. But then it was also a message to the people that are supporting you, like, hey, like she's got a lot going on, so if you want to support her, maybe offer some expertise in that area, or if she's having problems with her plumbing, like send her some reputable plumbers in the area, because it's just so much that you're taking in.
Exactly. Exactly. So Really quick, just because for myself and for anybody else that's on the live that might not know who you are or your story, this shit really happened to you. And if you don't mind, could you share maybe the story of what that loss looked like for you? And first of all, your spouse's name and how long you guys were married, and then how did that loss look? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, well, I will try to tell the story because it's 21 years of a life with someone. I met
And
my
yours
husband.
is very, very fresh, so please take it very slow and share only what you feel good to share right now.
Yeah, I met my husband in California. So I don't know what part of California you're in, but I was living in the Bay Area. Um, and I was managing in a commercial real estate building. And my husband happened to be one of my tenants, and
Okay.
his company was one of my tenants. And he thought that I was a tenant. He didn't realize I was kind of the building manager. And so he had asked the receptionist up front, who was kind of this older woman that kept spilling my business. You know, that the older woman, oh yeah, she's not dating anyone. She's single. Ask her out. Like she told him all my business. And so eventually we ended up kind of crossing paths in the lobby one day. And he asked me out, and I immediately went back to my office and I called my roommate and I said, this guy just asked me out and I think I want to go out with him, but I need you to come with me because we're going to meet him there. And, you know, that way you always need an out, right? I knew that when I was in my 20s, you always need an out. So, long story short, we went out that night and I don't remember a day without him after that. So, we went out, we had fun. You know, and that was just where our relationship started. We instantly fell in love.
Oh wow.
Um, Fast forward to about 6 months into us dating, so we hadn't been dating that long. I was kind of having some roommate issues, and I was like, "Rent's too high out here. I'm moving back to Atlanta."
Yeah.
So I remember, and I've always been very headstrong and like I'm gonna do me, and if we can do us together, then that'll be the case.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember that was back when you could kind of leave your job and know that you would find something else pretty quickly. So I quit my job. My apartment lease was up, and I had told him, hey, you know, I love where we're headed, but I'm moving back to Atlanta. And I was like, I don't know what that means for us, but I'm moving back to Atlanta. And so he came back to me maybe a day or two later, and he was like, guess what? And I said, what? He was like, my contract ended. So he was there in San Jose on a contract, and he was just like, my contract ended. I've always wanted to live in Atlanta. What would you think if I moved out there with you? And I'm like, okay, you know, because I'm 25 years old, and you know, like he was the longest relationship that I'd had. You know, I didn't have like long-term boyfriends. Anyway, long story short, we moved to Atlanta. Um, we were married, engaged a year after we got here, married a year later. And this August, we would have been married for 22 years. So we have had the most ups and downs that any marriage. His name is Andre, by the way. He Our story kind of took a turn about 10-ish years into our marriage. And my husband was a type 1 diabetic. So he had diabetes, you know, since he was younger. Admittedly, very uncontrolled. He was very headstrong and I don't need this and I don't need that. And as a lot of men are, they don't focus on their health the way they need to. So his health was really starting to affect him. And in 2016, he had developed a really, really nasty infection in his foot that would not go away. We tried everything for almost a year. And that resulted in 2016, his right leg getting amputated.
Wow.
So my husband, he had always driven trucks. When I met him, he wasn't driving trucks, but he was an over-the-road truck driver. That's what he did. And it was his right leg that got amputated, which is his driving foot. So he was no longer going to be able to get like the CDL license and all of that. So huge, huge change in our lifestyle. After the amputation is when like his health issues started to kind of come on a little bit more. He started to have blood pressure issues, started to really have some uncontrolled blood sugars. Fast forward, the one thing he used to always say, if I ever have to go on dialysis, that's it. I don't want to go on dialysis. Well, in 2018, he got really sick, ended up in the ER, and the doctor was like, your kidneys are not working anymore. You're going to have to go on dialysis. So in 2018, he went on dialysis. And for sake of time, just from 2018 until 2022, it was a lot of dealing with sickness. He stopped working. We decided that he would stop working, so I became the primary caregiver. I was the only one working. He was getting disability and all of that, and he did as much as he could. He kind of became he loved to cook, so he cooked. He made sure our son got to where he needed to go. And so that was just kind of our life.
Yeah.
He got sick again in 2022, had an abdominal infection, had to have his gallbladder removed, had a liver abscess. It was a lot. I thought I was going to lose him then. He was that sick. And from there, he recovered from there, but it just never quite was the same after that. And I just slowly started to see like a decline in him. His energy, just a lot. It changed the dynamics of our marriage. It changed his engagement with our son. But I loved him. And I hated to see him have to deal with his body just really just not working for him anymore. So that was kind of the last year and a half or so. He wasn't eligible for the kidney transplant list anymore after his abdominal infection. And so we really just had gotten to a place of let's just keep doing dialysis. Let's, try to be as healthy as possible. We knew it wasn't necessarily going to get better. We just didn't want it to get worse. And so that's where we were. He had good days and bad days, but that's where we were. February, Valentine's Day of this year, we went to see the Bob Marley movie. And that was our last date. That was our last night together, out. That next Friday morning, he was getting ready to go to dialysis, and he went to dialysis at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And that morning, he just was really, really slow to get up. And he just kept saying, I'm kind of dizzy. And so I was like, I'll help you. I'll help you get up. I'll help you, whatever you need. And he sat down and he called for Lucas. That's our son. He said, and this is at 5 o'clock in the morning. He said, can you tell Lucas to come here? Mm-hmm. And I was like, babe, it's It's 5 o'clock in the morning. You know, he's a teenager. He's asleep. You'll see him when you get home. And he was like, no, I just want to give him a hug. And like I heard that, but in my mind, I'm like, you want to give him a hug? You need to get to dialysis. You know, like I was so hurried. And, but something stopped me. And he was like, I'm a little dizzy. And I said, well, just, you know, just have a seat. And I kneeled next to him and I gave him a hug. And he fell into, like, it was a heavy, heavy hug. And he didn't pull away. Normally, you know, you hug for a little bit and then you pull away. He didn't pull away. And I heard him say, he said, I love you even when it's dark. And in the moment, I'm like, what in the world? I didn't know what he meant by that. It didn't make sense. I love you even when it's dark. And so even now, I'm still like, what was he trying to tell me in that moment? But we literally, I stood up and I walked to our bedroom door and I said, you know, you ready to go? And he said, I think so. And he stood up, he walked maybe 3 steps and he just collapsed in my arms.
Wow.
And I took him to the ground. And the irony of our story is I had just re-upped my CPR certification that Saturday before because I needed it for my fitness classes. And so CPR was fresh on my mind. And in that moment, I was like, I'm going to have to do CPR on my own husband.
Yeah.
This shit's really happening.
Shit is really happening.
And I did CPR for 15 minutes on him, the best that I could, until the ambulance got there. And he never, like when they took him from our house, like he had like a faint heart rate. But by the time we got to the hospital, he was on the ventilator. And he never came back. He passed. So that all happened on a Friday, and he ended up passing away that Sunday morning. Wow. So that's the condensed story.
That's the baby version of the story.
Yeah. There's so much about the 48 hours leading up to that. And then, like, when he did pass, I wasn't in the hospital. I had stayed all Friday night, all day Saturday, and the doctor was like, Miss Williams, you know, we can make some decisions or we can talk about next steps, but, you know, go ahead and go home. You know, my friends that were there, go ahead and go home. When I left the hospital that Saturday night, I walked back, I left him, you know, from being in the room, and I get out into the waiting room and I just lost it. Like when they say, you know, you wail and it comes from your inside, I don't feel like I've ever cried so hard and for so long than I did that in that night. Hi, Tina.
Hey, Tina, we've seen you come in, girl. I was trying to see how to get other people up here, but it keeps on acting like it's not letting me invite anybody else on. I don't know how to do it. I don't know what I'm doing up here. But
if I invite, I don't know. Maybe if people want to join, there's a way to ask to join. That might be it.
Right. And so I don't know how to put it back in multimedia then if we did. Like, I don't know if we can fix that. Right. Okay. I think that's what it is too. Yeah. I don't know that we can fix it without going all the way out and coming back like into the live.
Okay. Well, we'll just have to do this again.
We can just do it again. Started in multimedia mode. Okay, yeah, we can just do it again.
Do you want to do that for the sake of having others join? I'm happy to. We
Like
can.
pop out and then we can try to come back in one more time just to see, or
Yes.
yeah. We
So
don't we don't mind it because we plan to be chit chatting though. Are you going to bed?
okay, she says keep going. Okay, we'll keep going. So but yeah, but that's my story in summary, kind of, because there's so many things that oh no, I was talking about that Saturday when I left, and it just came out in a way like I just have never felt that kind of hurt. um and
Okay, cousin, we'll be here. So if you want to pop back in or however.
cool. um and yeah, and so when I woke up the next morning, well, I don't even know if I really slept. I came home, I took a shower, I laid in the bed, and I woke up and I felt so heavy. Like I could not get up. And I remember talking to myself like, Sylvia, you need to be back up at the hospital. The doctor's going to be there by 8:30. Like, you need to get up. And I just remember looking at my clock and the time kept passing. And I just felt so heavy in my bed. Like I couldn't get myself up. And the doctor ended up calling me and saying, something about like his phosphorus levels had gotten high and they were going to try to do dialysis. But my husband had a DNR, do not resuscitate. So she was like, I want you to make that decision, but also know that, that's kind of going against the DNR. And so at that point, I was like, I don't want him to go through any more than he's already gone through. Like he suffered for years. This was like the culmination of years. And my husband had told me over the years, like, I'm tired. Like, this is hard. I'm struggling. Um, and so I was just like, okay, I'll be there. That's what got me up. And by the time I finished getting dressed, my phone rang again. And it was the same number. And that's when she called me and she's like, I'm sorry, Miss Williams, but Andre passed away a few minutes ago. And I just like, it was a weird, it like washes over you and then it washes right away. Cause I'm like, no, like that, like instant denial. But then my mind went to like, why didn't he wait? Like, I was supposed to be sitting there and our hands were going to be locked together and we were going to whisper all of these great things, like the movies, like you see how people, talk about somebody's last moments and how they were there. And I just, for a minute, I kind of beat myself up. I was like, oh, I should have been there. Why did I go home like that? How selfish of me to do that. Like those were the thoughts. But then through the help of my therapist and others, they were like, no, like he didn't want you there because he didn't want you to have to experience that.
Exactly what I was gonna say. Do you think that it happened exactly the way it was supposed to? Because he did hang on, and you were there, and you were there for those days. And when you left, he probably felt like, he can slip on away because it probably may have been worse had you been, like the Disney fairy tale, like of course.
Yeah.
But in death, it's not a fairy tale at all, anyways, right?
I can't get the image until you've seen someone on a ventilator. It is the most violent, and I can't get that image out of my head. It's not this peaceful like person just sleeping in the bed. I wish that's what it was, but he couldn't breathe on his own. Like it was really hard to see him that way. So, and I remember I've always heard this, that people when they're passing away, like they can hear you. And So I just remember talking to him and saying, you know, we're going to be okay. Lucas and I are okay. You know, we have everything we need. We're going to be okay. You can go. You know, you can go. And I just remember saying that to him a lot because I just wanted him to know, you know, he doesn't have to struggle like that anymore. So that's the story. And then grief,
And then grief.
you know.
I
So
wanted
how about you? I would love to hear your story.
um so my story is a little different. um Shavonde and I met at a restaurant, so that was unique. My cousin, who was trying to join the live, in fact, it was her fault that we ended up meeting. She wrote my number on the receipt. He was our server that day, and I was highly embarrassed. And he ended up calling, and we talked for a really long time. That first phone call, and then the next day we talked again, like an all nighter. It was like that high school, just we were just up just the whole night. And then we ended up going on a date. And one date turned into a couple dates. And about two, maybe this was in January when we met. So in March, was it March? I think it was in March. We had went up. So I am in California. I am in like Inland Empire area. So about an hour from San Diego one way and an hour from LA the other way. So I'm in between the two. And we went to Palm Springs. And so they have this tram that takes you all the way up to the top of, I can't think of what mountain that is. But once you get up there, it's beautiful in the winter. In the spring, it's like covered in snow. So we had went up for a snow day, had no idea what to expect. But while we were up there, he asks me, you know, after like a whole fun-filled day of playing in the snow, he asks me, will you be my girlfriend? And I was like, of course. Like it was really sweet and cute. And I'm like, oh, like, do people still ask like to be your girlfriend like that? Like we're grown-ups, you know, but I thought it was really super cute. And after that, like you said, like we were pretty much inseparable. We fell pregnant about a year after that, and so I ended up being on hospital bed rest with that pregnancy. I went into the hospital on my birthday, and I was told that I had to stay there until I delivered. And on top of that, we needed to keep baby in as long as possible because baby wasn't ready. So that was really hard, but he like stepped up to the plate for my girls. Like I have two daughters that I had before I met him, and they were 4 and 7 at the time. So he was taking care of that. He was holding down the fort at home. Like everything was beautiful. We had our son. But while our son was in NICU, when I got home finally, like he ended up proposing with me looking a hot mess sitting on the couch. And it was really sweet. I had to take all my jewelry off for the surgery and stuff. I had C-sections and everything. And so I didn't end up getting a lot of my jewelry back. He had taken it home. So he was like, oh, I have your stuff too. And so he ended up swapping out my ring for an actual engagement ring. So he was down on the floor talking to me and he's like, oh, I want to give you your stuff, you know, your ring's back. And he puts it on and I'm like, I look down and I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't my ring. And that was really sweet. We got married like 9, 10 months later. So we were engaged for about 10 months and then things were good. We had another daughter. We just like life was life. Him and I ended up having, you know, again, marriages, they go through their ups and downs, right? We have our share of times, trials, tribulations, and all of the things. And we did end up dealing with infidelity. And I was really, really hurt by that. And I had decided that I was going to separate from him because I didn't want to do that. I feel like him and I had talked enough about life and the things that I had been through previously and things like that for like this to turn out this way, like what is really going on. And so I had a really, really hard year, the year that he passed away, because I was in a space of, do I choose my marriage? Do I choose myself? I'm raising daughters and I'm raising a son. Like, do I stay and let this, and so that became sort of a battle all in itself. He was not my first marriage. I was married before I got married when I was 19. So that was kind of a fluke from the beginning. But it was one of those things that just for me felt like I have to choose me. And so I had decided that I was going to move out and that we were going to separate. And even during that time, he was on the phone every day. He was asking me to come home every day. Like, we were talking every day. And love doesn't disappear, right? Like, love doesn't disappear. And I don't think that I would have been hurt and distraught had it been that way. It would have been simple to just be like, middle fingers up to you and I'm out. But that actually wasn't even the way that I was thinking that I was walking out of that, right? Like it was just really hurtful. It was a really stressful year. And he had started having some seizures that year. And so it was kind of like we were back and forth in the doctor. There was no explanations for what was going on. Every time they would run the tests, everything was coming back healthy as a whistle. So we didn't understand what the seizures were for, but I had watched this man fall out in a seizure twice. And it was really, really scary. So, of course, there's these internal battles of, if something's wrong or if he's sick. But then it's like, does that get to be the excuse, though? Like, it just gets to be okay because, and so we never really knew what was wrong or what was happening. But my birthday weekend in 2022, my birthday is in November. He had came out to visit his family because his grandmother had just passed away, and all of his family had gotten together, and he hadn't seen a lot of them in a while. So it was kind of like how you said, the way that your husband hugged you, and the way he just wanted to hug your son, and the way that he said that he loved you that day was different, right? Something in that weekend, it was just really different. It was almost as if he got to make all of his rounds and he got to see all of the family that he didn't used to see. And he spent my birthday with me. And the next day we did, I homeschool my kids. And so he was there for that day. And then he took a flight back to Vegas. So we were living in Vegas at the time. I had came home to California to my parents during the time that we were separated. I had only been out of the house for about 3 months. And it was a Thursday. We were on the phone all day. We were talking about what we were going to do for Christmas and how we were going to spend Thanksgiving and what we were buying for the kids. And he ordered a dollhouse for our daughter that very same day and was like, I'll put it together when I come down there, so on and so forth. And so it's like, okay, a normal Thursday. We were on the phone for hours. And then we got off the phone around 3:30. And it's like, we've been on the phone all day since this morning. I will talk to you later. Have a good rest of your day. Like, I'll talk to you tomorrow, whatever. The next morning, around 5:30, my phone rang. And I looked at it, and it's a friend of the family. And I was like, huh? And I didn't answer. And I'm thinking, this is a butt dial. Like, why are you calling me so early? She called back immediately, and I answered the phone that time, and she says, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but Shavonde passed away. And I was like, first of all, I'm waking up out of my sleep. I'm like, I thought, what? I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, Addie, like, Shavonde passed away. And I said, who told you that? Like, how do you know?
Like, I just talked to him.
Thank you. I was like, what? What happened? What do you mean? Like, you're saying nothing. And so she said that they didn't have a ton of information, but that the hospital had called his daughter, and then his daughter was calling, I guess, the sister who that was her best friend. So they were together, but she called me. So she says, we're about to head up there. She goes, I can come and pick you up and we will go. And so I'm like, okay. And I get out of bed and I'm like, what? Like it just, like you said, there's a washing over and then almost like and then an adrenaline rush. Like, okay, well, wait a minute. What do you mean? So I go to explain to my parents because somebody's about to pick me up and I'm about to head to Vegas. I don't know what's going on and I also don't know when I'm coming back. Um, please don't tell the kids yet. And I need you to just hold it down right here. And I went in the bathroom and I go to call my best friend to tell her and I just fell apart in the bathroom. Like, what? Like I don't even know what's happening. So she gets there, we drive up. The whole drive was just it was very surreal. It was me, his two sisters, and one of his sister's best friends, so a friend of the family. And his sister is just very in denial. Like we don't even know if it's him. They haven't even identified anything. This could all just be some big mistake. Like there's no, and as much as like that makes sense, but that doesn't make sense, So it's just like so the whole way was just filled with anxiety getting to the hospital. And then upon arriving at the hospital, that was a whole nother tragedy. Like I was not given very much information. They said that they had already taken him from the hospital and he was already on his way somewhere. It just became such a mess. I had to make phone calls. We were not eligible for an autopsy because apparently he died at the hospital and not at home, which I actually feel like that's not true either. I think that the ambulance may have gotten a very faint heartbeat, and so they took him to the hospital. But when he got to the hospital, they said that they couldn't resuscitate him, that he was non-responsive from the time that he came in. So if they would have just left him at home, everything could have been so different. Yeah. But they didn't. And so in Vegas, people come to Vegas all the time. It's the city of sin, right? So there's a lot of accidents.
I love Vegas.
I used to.
I mean, I'm sure it means something very different to you now, but yeah, I enjoy it.
I do too. And but people come and go there. People have accidents in Vegas all the time. So their coroners are not out. They don't have people that are just doing, it has to be for, I guess, a reason or foul play or like something. And so at the time, I was not in the right headspace to make certain decisions that in hindsight, I wish that, I could have been of more stable mind or that someone around me could have been of more stable mind to help me to really kind of dig in to at least be able to have accurate information on exactly what happened. And so what we know from the death certificate is cardiopulmonary arrest, which is not the same as a heart attack. That basically just means that his heart stopped. And I don't buy that. I was just on the phone with him for hours. He didn't feel funny, nothing. And so how? But so that was left very, very unclear for me. And so I got to our house in Vegas, and I'm walking through the house, and it was just completely surreal. The silence of not having someone there, it was much different, right? Like, because I had left. I was at my parents' house for 3 months, but that wasn't silent. We were on the phone. I knew if I needed to call. There's a different kind of silence that goes through your home when they are just not there.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Loud.
My son and I talk about it a lot. He was just, because a lot of time, even when my husband was sleeping or, but like their presence was, their presence was still felt. And yeah, like, I mean, we literally leave our living room TV on. Like we have to leave things on in the house. Because the silence, my son and I actually talked about that, because there's been times like when I've left the house and he's been here by himself and he's like, Mommy, the house is just so quiet. I mean, we have a dog, we have, there's all sorts of things. So I understand that kind of silence. Like that's it.
It's different, and like you said, Tina, it's loud. It's weird. It's like an oxymoron, right? Like it's silence. It's the loudest quietness you'll ever hear. It's yeah.
I had a question, and it's a good one. And I hope, Andrea, I hope you're still on here. I think you are. But she says, for those of us trying to comfort those that are grieving, what should we say to provide comfort, or what should we do? And I love this question because it's the $1,000,000 question. Because I think that for me, well, the one thing I'm learning, everyone grieves differently. Everyone's circumstances are so different. Even though we both have lost a spouse, but even just now hearing our stories, they were very different, And so the days and weeks after that, it's like if you didn't have a strong circle going in, it's probably not going to get any stronger. If you do have a strong circle, you might find that circle changes. And I think I've experienced a lot of that. People that I thought would be there for me, in my mind, I'm like, it was just too much for them to handle. And they've maybe made their way out of my life, either by their action or inaction.
Right.
There are other people that have shown up in my life in ways that I never would have imagined. And so, Andrea, to answer your question, I think the biggest thing for me, and I can only speak for me because, I know there's other widows out there that and I kind of dabbled in like some Facebook groups with other widows, and I kind of got out. It's weird. It's like I can relate, but then I can't relate. And early on in, after Andre died, it was just like, I'm just trying to figure out how to handle it. So the comfort for me, one was, you don't have to say anything, like you don't have to like say something, but you don't have to like say a lot. Just, hey, I'm thinking about you. I'm here for you, and then be there, I had a lot of that too. Oh, I'm there for you. Call me. My pet peeve of anything, even beyond grief, is when someone's like, let me know what I can do. Because if I have to let you know, that is time and energy and brain cells that I don't have. Yeah. And so if you're putting it on me to let you know what I need, it really, I won't call you. I won't text you. You won't hear from me. And that's happened. I think what's been most comforting are the people that just made an effort. Sylvia, I just went to Walmart today and I picked up some stuff. Can I drop it off? Because I have a 17-year-old son. I just ran through the drive-through. Can I bring you some breakfast?
Yeah.
I don't turn down food. At this point, I wasn't turning anything down. It's like the more people could almost just think for me, and there really wasn't a way to get it wrong, in my opinion. That was really comforting. I've had some really weird things said to me in this process. I had one person tell me that the best was yet to come. They're like, the best is yet to come for you. Okay. Yeah.
like,
the best.
seriously?
I just lost the best, but if that's where you're coming, all right. I've had people leave me voicemails like crying and upset, and I'm like, okay, but what? I mean, like, are you here for me? So I think that's the big thing around. I just you want to be seen. You want your grief to be seen, and held, and there's certain people that the words come naturally, maybe people that are a little more empathetic or a little, just a little more in tune. But even if you're not, just say that. Say, I don't have the words to say, Sylvia, but I just really want you to know that I'm here for you. Or I would love to just come over and sit on your couch with you. We don't have to talk about anything, because it's understanding that I'm lonely. I lost my person. Even coming home after work and having somebody to talk to about my day, like all of that went away. When somebody pissed me off and I needed somebody to vent to, or if I wanted to be petty about something, you know, he was my person. So now I'm like left with just sitting with all of that. So anyone that extends that, like, you know, let me just sit with you. Let me be a presence. Let me,
Yeah.
but anyway, how about you? What's comforting for you?
I agree with everything that you said. I feel like the worst part of it is the let me know, let me know if there's anything that you need. What I will say, if you are listening and you are comforting someone who is grieving, especially the loss of a partner, spouse, or a significant loss, we don't often know what the hell we need.
We sure do.
There's so many different things that we could need. We don't know. We don't know. And so, like Sylvia said, to just be a presence, to just offer your ear, your time, even if it's just to sit. I think that we get so hung up on like maybe trying to say the right words. People say all the wrong shit. They
Mm-hmm.
say all the wrong things. They say all the wrong things. And I don't think that it is with ill intent. I don't think that people have malicious intent or, even intend to hurt us with the things that they say, because I think that they really just don't know. But sometimes if you don't know, it's best to just not say anything other than I am here for you in any way, and I will show up. And then actually show up like you said, because
That part.
we get a lot of people at the funeral, and we get a lot of people right after the situation happens, and they're right there. They're in an instant. They're in your face. It's I'm gonna be there for you. Let me know if you need anything. How can I help? All the things might be right there, right then. But also being there after the fact. And if you say, I'm here for you, be there. Call us,
Yes.
because sometimes, even in the midst of what we are going through, I might not pick up the phone and reach out to you at 2 a.m. Even if you told me, oh, you can call me anytime. Do you mean that?
Mm-mm.
Because for a widow, for someone who's grieving a significant loss, nighttime is the hardest time. And
Mm-hmm.
we're up just staring at walls, thinking all kinds of
Rolling. I've learned more things on TikTok in the past 5 months because, yeah, and I know people are like, well, you should put your phone down and, turn the TV off and all the things, but
and
why
it's
is
almost
it?
how dare even say that, because you have no idea what how loud, once again, this silence is when I do those things. Grief can have a capacity to take over and consume a person.
Mm-hmm.
It can be really heavy. I've had some dark nights, some very dark nights. some very lonely nights.
Mhm.
And so, in all of that, it's nice to know that the person that said I can call them at any time, that if I do call you at 3:32 in the morning, like, will you answer the phone? Because when you don't answer the phone, now it feels like a rejection. Now I feel like a bother. And now I've just learned you're not going to be there for me anytime. And so sometimes this is why we don't do either. Like you
Right.
said, if you're out, and you happen to think of me, because I've got 4 children at home. I have a friend who calls me a lot and she's like, "Hey, I have extra leftover of this, or I just went and bought way too many yogurts. Like, can I bring some to your house?" You certainly can. And thank
Yeah.
you so much, because a DoorDash goes a long way.
Mhm.
um it goes as
Yeah,
well.
I had somebody like DoorDash me a honey baked ham. I killed that ham. Like I don't even eat ham like that. But I was so thankful for
Yeah.
that because again, kind of going back in the beginning, like our brains aren't working anymore. And so
It's
anytime
scientifically proven that the
it
brain is
is, it
working.
is. And so anytime somebody can step in and just relieve you of whatever it is, sending food is always nice. I know in the beginning I had my freezer was packed out. I had too much food in the beginning. So that's another thing too, like people try to go hard in the beginning, and that's really when it's probably just best to just make those phone calls, do that checking in. But then it's the the weeks and the months after where like grief exhaustion, like I'm tired of grieving. I'm tired of feeling this way.
Honey, I'm tired of
And I
grieving.
know, and you've been at it way longer. And
I'm
so
tired.
and so it's so refreshing to me, and I'm new to it. I'm 5 months into it, but it's so refreshing to me when somebody is just like, "Hey, do you want to go have lunch this weekend?" And I'm just like, "Yes, that's one last thing that like I would love that." And I think that's a misconception too, if I'm a widow, so I'm not just like laid up on my couch with my Reese's peanut butter cup blanket, and which was a gift, by the way. It was one of my favorite grieving gifts. But to have known me before I lost my husband, you would know that I'm outgoing. I love to try new restaurants. I'd love to go out and do things. And I live in Atlanta because it's a city that's busy and has a lot going on. And so, a lot of people are like, "Well, we don't want to bother her." Or we don't want to blow up her texts or anything like that. I'm like, blow up my text. Nobody's, when you get to that two, month, 2 months, 3 months, like my phone went radio silent for the most part. And that was when I found like I really kind of needed people because the dust was settling, the reality was settling in, the shock. It was like you get the epidural and you're not feeling anything, but all of a sudden it starts to wear off. And that's what happens those months after, and years, I'm sure. So that's how you show up is, and I just came across that post or that video where it was John O, and he was like, know, if you really want to support someone, know the dates that are meaningful to them, know the
Yes.
anniversaries, know the birth dates, know the day that they passed, put
Yeah.
that on your calendar and be so intentional about reaching out on those days. um I mean,
And
I
that's
just thought that.
definitely something that people can do, like on the outside of this whole thing, is to just be intentional about the way that you show up for other people, because it's not right away that we need so much comfort. Right away, we're frozen.
Yeah.
The way we are frozen. Again, it's so foggy, we can't see it, nothing. But after the months and even the years, because what I can say and what I noticed coming up on 1 year was that it feels like a regression. You feel like you've started to do okay, and then why all of a sudden, and our body keeps the score. And so maybe a month leading up to, I started just getting really, a lot started happening, a lot of different feeling, and you never know how you're going to feel when those anniversary dates come up, especially not the first ones. Like as you go through all of the firsts, I think that's what makes the first year of grief so hard. And 1 year is not a marker by any means, other than you've gone through all the firsts of the calendar year, all of the events, all of the things, you've been through them now without your person. And approaching that 1 year, it gets very interesting. um, and it feels almost like being knocked right back to day one. And that's weird. And those are those moments again where am I losing it? Like you start feeling like, wait, what is happening? How is this possible? Like what's going on? But our bodies know. And how many people are still there on the phone? How many people are still there with a meal because it's the 1 year anniversary, and this entire week I'm down for the count and I can't get off of my bed and I still need to eat. Or people stop thinking about it at that point. And those are the times where it's really important knowing the dates. If you are a good friend and you're hearing this and someone has lost someone significant to them, take it upon yourself to know at least the death anniversary day.
Mm-hmm.
At least, at the very least, know that day. Because when your friend, your cousin, your sibling, whoever starts acting weird, there's a
Yeah.
reason for it, because the body knows and it's going to recount that memory. Um,
Yeah, I talked through that with my therapist the week before Father's Day because I kept I kept saying like I don't know, like I just felt like I had a really short fuse that week. Anything anyone said to me kind of pissed me off. Like
oh
I
yeah.
just felt heavy, and I kept telling her that, and she was like, "Sylvia, what's this Sunday?" And I was like, "Oh, it's Father's Day." She was like, "Yes." I have a wonderful therapist, by the way, who I started seeing even before, almost a year to the day, um, before Andre passed. So I had she had been on a journey with me for a while.
I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was experiencing, just dealing with the different health issues and things that were coming up, do you feel at any point that you began to start a process of mourning or grieving beforehand? Yeah.
100% yes. And that is what my therapist helped me really unpack, because kind of the last year of his life, like things really changed. Things changed physically. Um, things changed because I just really was taking this caregiver role, and like that's what I became. And that was one thing I had said to her. I was like, I feel like I'm more his caregiver than I am his wife. And she was like, whoa, let's talk about that. She's always like, whoa, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
She was like, because that was where my head is. It had taken so much out of me to maintain and keep all the balls in the air. And I mean, I had seen my husband in and out of the hospital. um, I've had more than one kind of emergency situation, more than I can even count. And
Yeah.
so I started developing like panic attacks. I'd never had like panic attacks. I now know what those are, like moments where I literally could not catch my breath.
Yeah.
I just noticed like a very just short fuse. I say that a lot, but like just my tolerance level for all things and all people was just minimal.
Yeah.
And um and then I just had this overwhelming feeling of feeling stuck. It's like I have this husband that we had this whole life that we were supposed to be living together. This was not our plan. It was
Right.
this was not what I vowed on August 17th, 2002. Whew. That was our wedding date, which is coming up. So it was just, I was struggling with so much. Plus, I was going through a lot with my job. And it was just a really hard place. And so, in those sessions with her, you know, she's the one that helped me really unpack the grieving. She's like, "You're grieving your husband." She's like, "He's still here, but you're grieving him." And a lot of our sessions was her helping me reconnect with him,
Okay.
helping me to reconnect a physical connection with him. Because my antidote to feeling that way was just staying super busy. I'm just going to be busy all the time, and I'm going to take care of my husband and do everything. But I'm also going to go on trips to Jamaica and Punta Cana with my girlfriends, and I'm just going to be very busy because I was kind of escaping from everything.
Yeah.
And really, what it was is I was starting to grieve that life that I thought that we would have.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. All right. I have a question then from our prompts that we haven't even got to yet.
Yeah.
Did you have questions, or did you have some questions that you came up with, or?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So, what were, or let's see, how has or did the grief of losing your partner changed your daily life and routines? And what have been some of the biggest adjustments that you feel like you've had to make?
Hmm. Daily routines. I think one, because my husband was so sick, I kind of was very hyper focused on where is he? Like to the point we set up cameras in our house because my husband had fallen a couple times in the house too. And so like we had set up cameras in the house so that we could like see where he was if my son or I weren't here. And so and then even like when I was out and about, like I was always like, okay, well, I need to get him more apple juice because we used to keep apple juice on hand when his blood sugar dropped. And so even grocery shopping, like I've had to like the things that he liked to eat, like I don't or drink. Like for a long time, I would still go down that juice aisle. I don't even drink juice like that, you know. But like, so really kind of changing um just not my every thought being around, okay, what does he need? What, I'm on my way home, I'm on my way to the store. So it's kind of like now I have all this free time, which is dangerous. I've been in TJ Maxx way more than I should be. Because I just, there's this feeling of free time. I'll tell you kind of the one thing that I've really struggled with
Okay.
is our bed. Um, I am forcing myself to sleep on his side of the bed. And
And so, what does that feel like for you?
it feels really strange. So part of it is practical because I'm like, okay, I don't want to wear one half of the mattress out, you know? And so I'm like, I got to get over there at some point, even though somebody the other day was like, Sylvia, just spin the mattress.
Yeah.
Because you know, you clearly he has his side, you have your side, and kind of the way we would sleep, you know, it's kind of like spooning, and so we were always more on my side anyway.
Okay.
He never wanted to get a king size bed. I always wanted a king size bed. He's like, no, I want a queen. because if we get a king size bed, then we can't cuddle the way.
Too far apart.
Yeah. So yeah, so it's been really weird. I think that's part of my insomnia is just trying to get comfortable in this bed that I shared with him. And sleeping, and you get so used to sleeping with someone. Sleeping is such a personal thing, that we do. And he's seen me with bonnets and with all, like you were at your most authentic self when
Yeah.
you were going to sleep, especially when it's your husband and you've been together and he's seen it all.
Yes.
So yeah, getting used to my bed. So I'm on kind of a mission. Part of my TJ Maxx trips are to redo my bed a little bit, get
Okay.
some bedding,
Nice.
replacing my pillows. I've switched up some artwork in the room,
Yeah.
really trying to make the room mine. Um, and so that's one thing. His clothes are still hanging in the
Okay.
closet, in the drawers. Um, there's some things that I had to like immediately get rid of. And then there's other things that I'm like, yeah, this could sit here in this drawer for the next 5 years and it's fine. So yeah, I think just my day to day, making my home and like my errands and all of that truly about what I need, or obviously what my son needs as well, but not having that like, okay, let me make sure that I'm taking care of him. And that's just been weird, and it's left me with a lot of free time.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah. I would say I'm so I won't give 3 months long enough of being apart to had been enough to say like, oh, my life is changing, right? I feel like in that 3 months, it was it was a break. It was like vacation almost, We've gone to grandma's for the summer. Um, but what I realized just without him here, period, because regardless of what would have happened with us, that man was never going to not be there for his kids. He was an excellent father, and I could depend on him, and I can count on him, and he was always right there. And so, as a mom to four humans and a dog, I can see as much as I maybe could bicker or feel like, naturally as wives do sometimes, my husband was a slob. Like he was messy. It's like I was the one always cleaning up. And, of course, there's sometimes the back and forth because, you didn't put your stuff in the hamper and it's right there, or those little nitpicky things. But he did a lot and he contributed a lot. And whether it was just his presence or whether it was because he could take the children to do like all of him. So for me, in day to day, like it's just me. It's just me and four of them. I have to somehow make an income. I have to be the one to get everybody from here to there to there. I have to, like you said, when something goes wrong with anything, I'm trying to. Before I would get really mad, and sometimes I still do, and I would yell at the urn. Like anytime anything would happen in the very beginning, I would be pissed, and I would yell at the urn because I'm mad at you because you left me here, and now I have to figure this out by myself, and this isn't the way that it was supposed to be. Um, but it's like figuring things out, learning me on top of that. I can recall a moment where I was breaking down in the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror in tears. And my question to myself was just, who are you now? Without the title of wife, without the title, who are you now without him?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really deep question because when you're married, your identities kind of intertwine. You are a we. Everywhere you go, it's y'all. And so that was really tough. And so in the day to day, it became finding out, who I am. How do I want to raise the kids now, I guess, how do I want to go shopping? Or like you said, I don't eat certain meat. Like I only eat fish. He ate meat. There was stuff that he did. So it's like the grocery trips, like everything down to those tiny little, mundane things, they become so different.
Yeah.
And so those were really big changes. And then I'm not at home anymore. I am currently housed with other people at the moment. So my day to day has also changed in that sense, just because I was a homemaker for years. I've been a stay at home mom, and whether I've had side hustles or businesses or what have you over here, my main life revolved around taking care of a house and home, and I was the DIY queen. And so day to day, like I sometimes like, well, I don't have nothing to do. What am I supposed to do? Like, so um it's definitely an adjustment just in general, just getting to know how.
How old are your girl? You have four girls?
I have three girls and one son. And so my kids now are 19, 15. My baby girl will be 8 in 2 weeks, and my son is 9.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it's really weird because their ages when their father died, it's like they've leaped and bound, and it's like, where did the time, where the hell did the time go? Like, so they're all at these ages where it just, life is so, it's so different than it was just only a year and a half ago. And it's crazy to think how things can change so quickly.
Is there anything, because I feel like you're further down the runway than me, even though we know that like this journey or this language, trying
Language,
to force
right?
myself, this
This
language
this
that we're
this
learning.
journey has no destination point. How do you just hop on a plane and go, where are we going?
Right. Yes. It's like, to me, if it's in the Caribbean, I'm down. Like, but is there anything that maybe you would have done differently early in your grief? Like, is there anything that maybe you were just like, I was so focused on this and I shouldn't have been? Or,
I think if anything, it would have to be including my children more in my process too. I think as a mom, and I think too, even as women sometimes, and honestly, and I'm going to go there because as Black women,
yeah.
we are strong and we need to be strong, right? I come from a family of women who they're strong. They put on faith. They don't, we don't fall victim to stuff. You get up and you're going to keep pushing. And, I feel like a lot of the times that I was sad or that I needed to fall apart, or I hid that. It was in the bathroom with the door locked. It was late at night. It was immediately if somebody was coming, like my eyes were being wiped and clear, as if I don't have a right to be in this space, as if you somehow shouldn't get to see how hurt this is for me too. We are all hurting together, and I think that it's important, not to say that every day I need to be falling apart in front of the children,
Yeah.
but it's also important that they see what a healthy cathartic release looks like, and that they know it's okay to cry, and that mom is sad today, but that mom's okay too. And, those, so I feel like I didn't give that much. Um, People would say, I feel like, ask, oh, how's Addie? Oh, she's okay. She seems like she's doing okay. I seem like I'm doing okay. And I bring that up too because people can probably say the same about you. You have such a beautiful, bubbly, like fun energy that it's almost like, especially your online persona, she just lost her husband 5 months ago. Girl, you look like you're carrying on great. I looked like I was carrying on great because I'm good at that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Very good at that.
we lose. I feel like I lost time with them by not allowing them to sort of, understand when I was in those spaces. And sometimes I had an attitude that I probably shouldn't have had.
I had to have that conversation with my son, because now it's just me and him, and there'll be time, even, I mean, last weekend, like there's just times that we'll be in the car and that we'll start talking, and I'll have a breakdown, and I asked him, I was like, how does that make you feel, to see me break down? And my son is very mature, and he's kind of, he's seen my husband. I mean, my husband was sick almost his whole life, he's kind of seen him. But he was just like, Mommy, it's okay for you to cry. He's like, I know, and he's had his moments too, and we've had to really increase our communication and our check-ins with each other. Um, but I 100% believe in, we don't have to shield our children from grief. Grief is a part of life. They will experience it in a more intimate way. Even, I can't, even with my son, like both my parents are still alive, so I don't even know what it's like to lose a parent.
Right.
um
Same.
and so, but what I want to do is raise an emotionally healthy human being that understands that grief is part of us. It is natural. You don't It is okay for you to grieve your father. It's also okay for you to be okay. Um
Right.
and that was the one thing, cuz I didn't, cuz my son is, there's been moments where he's like, Mommy, is it okay if I feel like relieved? And I'm like, absolutely, because I feel relieved too,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we went through a lot,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we know that now, you know, he's not suffering, he's not hurting, he's not struggling. Like, we've both felt that relief. And so, but at the same time, we have our moments, and we have learned to let it fly. I have learned to let it fly, because if I tried to hold in every time I felt like crying, I would bust. I don't even know what would happen. To me, it is how I maintain my connection with my husband. Um, and to be honest, I have this like fear that like the day will come that I'm not crying, that I don't cry for him.
Yeah.
And I know that's in my head, because I know that doesn't change, but it doesn't change anything. But I do feel like there will come a time where maybe those tears don't just come that way. And, just preparing myself for that, because it's not going to change my love for him at
Like,
all.
what does that fear feel like for you? Like, because when I feel like I know what you're saying, and I understand it, and I hear that a lot, like in our community discussions that we have, and I feel like it almost is like that feeling of when the tears stop, like I've forgotten them, or I've erased them, or like they're done. Like, is that how that sort of shows up for you, or is
Yeah.
that fear feel like?
Yeah, I think it's just when you've been with someone for so long and they're no longer here, and all I have so I feel like my tears connect me to him. So if my tears go away, does that make us less connected? I know it doesn't, like that's not the reality, but that's what goes on in our brains. And it's just, will I miss him? Like, because right now, like, I miss him more than yesterday morning, I was making a video. I don't know if you saw it yet, but the video of the quilt that my aunt made. My aunt made a quilt of a lot of Andre's shirts and things. And I was editing the video because I was going to post it. And I was looking for a picture of him in one of the shirts that's in the quilt because I just wanted to put that in my video. And I came across a video of him when he first got his prosthetic. We were in the clinic and he first got fitted and he was walking. And I heard his voice. I was just recording the whole thing and I heard him talking and I heard his voice. And that was the first time I'd heard his voice in a long time. Girl, I was curled up in my bed sobbing because I just missed his voice.
Yeah.
And that's the fear, is that I don't miss his voice. It seems irrational, but I know you understand. But
I completely understand. It's not irrational. It's not. It's not. And we will have those thoughts in that process. I wonder, Tina, you're in here still because I know you are at year. Tina, what year are you at? You're at year 6, Tina, or am I mistaking you with Tasha? But do you Tina feel like do you still miss the voice? Like there's no disconnect, huh? I don't think that there will be a disconnect. It's interesting because I vlog on YouTube. And I started vlogging when my baby that's going to be 8, when I was pregnant with her. So I started my channel up to go through my pregnancy and do the little updates and all that stuff. And we have so many videos. And he's not in all of them because he was always kind of like, oh, there you go, pointing the camera in everybody's face again, like I'm the camera girl everywhere we go. But there are so many videos where he's just in them or he's in the background of them. And I don't know that I can go and watch those. I feel like sometimes when I try to pull little pieces out, like to make videos, or when I tried to pull clips to do like a thing for his birthday and stuff, I haven't heard his voice in so long. But it's so, like, when I hear it in those videos, it's like right there. Like it was just yesterday. Like it's never left. Like nothing's changed. Like there he is right there. Like that's it. Um, I guess I'm glad to have those, to always be able to kind of go back at them, but I get that, the fear in just, it feels like it'll be gone. Like what happens to the connection when I've cried all the tears? What happens? But I think that it just changes. I think it changes.
the best, not the best advice. Like I said, my therapist is really wonderful, and the one, when I was kind of sharing some of this with her, she was like, you've had this 21 plus year relationship with your husband. She's like, that doesn't end. You just have to figure out what that relationship with him looks like now.
Right.
And, how are you going to maintain your connection with him now? And she was like, you will know how to do that. Like she's like, I can't tell you to do that. Is it journaling? I don't know. Like I'm admittedly not a great journaler. I journaled probably for the first month and a half or so. And then honestly, getting on here and making videos about grief has been my journaling.
Yeah, mine too.
And so, but she was just, she's just encouraged me, just figure out, because I'm like, even things like when I would travel and I would land, I would always text him like landed, just landed, little things like that. And I was just telling her how like I miss that. Like it's part of my safety and protection thing that I'm like, now I don't have anybody that wonders if I've landed. I do, my family, my son, but um
It's different.
it's different. And so she just said, she was like, start a note in your phone and just text him. She was like, just, you can maintain that, um, he's not going to respond, but maybe he will respond in some other way. And so that's where she's just really encouraged me, like, you have to figure out what the relationship looks like now. Who is he to you now? And how will you be connected with him even, in the years to come? So
And that is, in fact, a form of journaling. So I do that in my notes a lot. I have a whole section in my notes on my phone, and sometimes if I want to talk or have something to say, I go there, and that's where I put the letters. Other times I handwrite them, but to me, I'm busy. I don't always have time either to just sit and be trying to hand write all the time. So yes, the verbal recount, turn it on, speak it out, and then move on is a whole lot easier. But I have no problem getting in that phone and just like I'm sending an email or a text, and just I'll write it out. I put the date on it. I usually put the date and the time. Um, and then that's it. And it's like a running scroll on the page. So I don't start a new one every time. I just go into that same note and go down to the next one. And so there's lots of them, and it's easier. And I feel like that's a way that I am able to feel like I am communicating. And I talk to him out loud. I talk to him out loud. Just
yeah.
look, guess what happened today? Like,
I do too. I'm like, things will happen. I'll be like, Andre, are you messing with me right now? Like literally, when I got a nail in my tire last weekend, and I'm like, really? Seriously? Like I got other things to do, and now I got to deal with getting a tire replaced.
I had a tire last week too.
Yeah. And, so there's times where it makes me smile. Like it's not all tears. And that's something that like I want people to know too. Like it's not all tears. Um, there's times when you just really knew that person really well, and there's elements of them that kind of show up. It's like, wow, like I got to love this person. And sometimes seeing, like, I'll post things, and people that knew him will post and talk about him, and it makes me feel good, that I was with a very kind man. And my husband didn't have a ton of friends. He was very simple. I was the outgoing one. My husband he was just, babe, do your thing. I'm good. I'm just going to watch the Cowboys and some Law and Order. And, and he was older than me too. Andre was 56. So, and I'm 49.
Okay.
So he's a little bit older than me. And I think he always, he's like, I married a young one, cause I act younger than my age, admittedly. But so, we just, he just kind of did his thing, and I did mine. And so, but it's nice when people that knew him, that really knew him, miss him just as much as I do. So here's my son is walking through the door.
Hi, son. Okay, well, we can kind of wrap it up. I just, is
That's
there any,
Lucas.
is there anything else like you feel like um you want to share or get off your heart or anything that you maybe want to say to, I always just put it like to someone that's on week one. Someone that has just had this happen.
Yeah. I think um, for me, there is no manual, there is no script, there is no playbook. There's nothing that specifically tells you how to get through this, how to manage this. It's not something you're even getting through.
Right.
It's something that is now part of who you are. It's part of your story.
Mm-hmm.
And in the beginning, you're like we were saying, like you're numb. You're not feeling anything, and yet you're feeling everything all at the same time. And it's just you've got to let that part of the process play out. Um, I think for me, I jumped back into work. I went back to work. I had a very generous, like I had almost 4 weeks of bereavement. Like my company had some very generous bereavement, but I have kind of a job that's pretty busy. And I was leading a big project in the middle of all of this. And so for me, I had this, I need to get back to work. I need to get back. I was putting myself on that timeline, not my job, but
Yeah.
I think for me, it's like just wake up each day after your 2 hours of sleep. um, but wake up each day and do whatever feels right. If staying in bed all day and crying it out all day, if that feels right, do that. Um, if getting up and going out and getting some fresh air or going for a walk feels right, do that. Like I think not putting any restrictions on how you should be behaving um, is so important because you'll know when you're kind of ready to maybe try some different thing. The first 2 weeks I didn't leave my house. I wore my pajamas every day. I bought new pajamas to wear in my house every day. Um, I did.
Didn't
I,
shower.
yeah, I mean, I didn't.
Hardly ate. It's tough. It's
Yeah,
tough.
yeah, and so, um, but yeah, but I'm just realizing that you just have to wake up each day and make each day is a new day. Even if you didn't sleep at all that night and you tossed and turned and you cried yourself to sleep and everything, when you wake up that next day, it's a new day. And I would just say surround yourself with the people that are going to honor wherever you are. There will be people that will force themselves into your space. There will be people that remove themselves that you maybe you felt should be in your space. Either way, let it happen.
Let it ride.
Because the people that are there and the people that are showing up with groceries, the people that are calling you, the people that are just sending you a good text. I had a friend of mine, I don't know if she's still on here, like she sent me flowers for Mother's Day. Like she didn't have to do that. Um, but yeah, I think just making sure that you are only surrounding yourself with people and things that bring you comfort and bring you peace. Any of those high drama friends, any of that, anything that does not honor that space, you need to, you can deal with it later. Um, that would be my advice.
Awesome.
How about you?
Um, Same. And it's okay to speak up for yourself. Um, I feel like that first little bit is a time where it's almost like true true colors true colors abound, because we see things so differently. Even though there's a fog, even though there's a haze, there's also still, I believe, this sense of clarity around what we see in people. Um, and so it's okay to speak up.
I'm gonna heart my own live for that because
It's okay to speak
yeah.
up. It's okay to say no. Do not let anyone have you to feel bad for being in the space that you are in. And like you said, the best thing that we can do is just honor where we are. Everybody is different and everyone's journey is different, but just from talking to different people versus being in my own process, it can get really, really hard and it can feel really, really heavy. And we have to learn how to honor the body in all of that so that we don't get sick and so that we don't overdo it and so that we don't essentially cause like havoc and harm to our own selves. Our hearts become very, very fragile. Um, and like you said, there's no room for lack of peace. There's no room for the high drama people that want to show up. There's no room for any of that. And it is okay to take your time. And it is okay if you lay around all day and do nothing. It's okay if you get up and you go back to work the next day. You have to just honor the space that you're in and be in that space and understand that you're in for a ride. I can't, and that's one thing too. Like, I will never sugarcoat that for anybody. You are in for a ride. This is a process and it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. We are not headed to the finish line quickly because there isn't one. Um, and so we learn to, I told my cousin last night, uh, I said to you, we're gonna learn to take my hand and we're gonna learn to surf. We do all this talking about riding a wave. What does that look like and what does that feel like? And I told her last night, I said, I think I'm gonna take a surfing lesson. I think I'm gonna actually find somewhere this summer at the beach, especially I'm in California, and I'm gonna take a surfing lesson and I'm gonna see what it like legitimately feels like as I speak it metaphorically to physically ride a wave.
I love that. Yeah. Because I think I use that terminology a lot too. And I've never got on a surfboard. I mean, I've gotten on boogie boards in Florida, try to like ride the wave into
Right,
shore. But
right.
but I think surfing really is it's shifting your weight when you need to, when things are getting heavy in one area. How do you shift and balance? I think surfing is a lot about balance, which in grief, I haven't found that. So
It's a beautiful metaphor, I think, though,
yeah.
too. So,
I think our next live, like I could probably talk for the next hour about even just like the physical side of grief.
yeah.
Like I would love, and maybe we can just tee this up and invite the other lady. We'll do it right the next time so that we
Yeah,
can.
we'll do it right. We'll come in as multi guest and not
Yes.
host and co host.
Yes. But just like physically, like there's things physically going on with my body that I'm like, that's weird. And so me being 49-year-old woman, before all of this on my TikTok, I was talking a lot about perimenopause and hot flashes and all of those things. And then obviously my content has shifted. I still talk about that every now and then. But it was like when all of this happened, I'm like, wait, is this perimenopause? Is this grief, trauma in my body? Like all of a sudden, like I broke out in this like eczema, like this um, dermatitis all over like my back and my hips. My brain doesn't work. My blood pressure has gotten high, and I've never had blood pressure issues. Sleep off, all of those things. And so I'd love like the next time we talk to like talk about those, because I think for me, being somebody in the health and fitness space, it's like, Sylvia, you should, you know, you should be able to manage your stress level. You know, that's why you work out, so that you can manage all of that. And so I'm still learning. I'm still figuring that part out for my own body.
Yeah.
But it's a real thing.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree. I think that'll be great. I know I did a video a little bit ago about grief being likened to that of a health crisis, and I've done my share of research on the different ways that grief impacts us physically, especially. And I say grief, but I really speak to significant loss and heavy grief, because all grief is not created equal. Like, we can grieve some things, but there are some things that the grief is a hell of a lot heavier than other spaces, and the physical impacts of that are so important, because some people really have no idea the different things that are going on, and you will be misdiagnosed every single time, because if you're grieving, a lot of times it's just gonna, the things are getting written off. But if it were, you were coming in with these issues under regular circumstances, it would be something that I think that people would want to pay more attention to. And so I think it's highly important subject matter to cover when it comes to grief, about the physical implications that it can definitely have on the body, so that you're aware, and that we know. Because when you don't know, you're like, what is happening to me? I had no idea what an anxiety attack was, or what that felt like. And the way that my heart kept doing weird stuff, I'm like, there were many days where I was like, do I need to go to the hospital? Like, what the hell is wrong with me? Like,
Or just that heavy feeling in your chest.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's
Pressing.
just like somebody's got a boot and they are like pressing on your chest. And I'm like, what is that? Like, yeah. So
Awesome. All right, my love. Well, thank you so much for doing this with me and talking. I think that this is really great, and I hope that those of you that are here were able to find some value in what we were just able to share through our own stories. I think that sharing your own story is really important, and it's very healing, not just for us to talk about it, but for you to be able to hear it. And hopefully this helped one person feel a little less alone.
I feel like the connections that I'm starting to make with other widows um, have just helped me so much, because even though I have some wonderful friends and people in my life that are supporting and trying to understand, but there is nothing like being eyeball to eyeball and seeing another, like, I don't even know how I started following some hashtags in TikTok. And so I don't even know how I stumbled across your page, but it was just like everything you were saying. I'm like, yes, like me too. Like, oh my gosh, like, yes, absolutely. Like, I just found myself head nodding every single thing that you were saying. And I was like, okay, like there are women out there that get it. There are even women that look like me that get it,
Yeah.
which was, uh, you know, was important, because I just feel like we share even more of a common bond, if you will. So it's been really helpful for me to start connecting with other widows. Um, and it's helped me be able to process even better when I'm hearing someone else, like things that maybe I can't quite find the words for. I can
Yeah.
go to your page because you found words for it, or there's a couple of other, creators and people that I follow that I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I'm feeling. They helped me put
Right.
it in the words. They gave me the language to talk about it. So I just, if there's any, any widows out there, it's so important to find some fellow widows. Like, it's um, people that can really relate. As much as your family and your friends would like to be that person for you, unless they've gone through it themselves.
I get it.
They just don't know. So yeah,
Awesome.
we're locked in now.
We are locked in now. Alrighty, friend. Thank you so much. And we're going to go ahead and hop on off this thing. Everybody have a wonderful rest of your evening. And I will get with you later. We'll see about trying to maybe come back next week.
Yeah, I think we can.
Okay.
All right.
Good night.
Bye.